So, the King of Wakanda already has his second lore chapter, but what happens in it? And what exactly is that red gem that sits in the middle of Black Panther? It's not a design we've seen anywhere but Marvel Rivals. Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Riddler. Wrong universe, I know. And this is Marvel Rivals Season 1, The Blood of Kings. Our story begins in another night of the Eternal Night in the city of New York, more specifically in the borough of Manhattan. The king of space Wakanda, T'Challa, is in communication with his sister Shuri as he is in New York to meet up with Dr. Reed Richards. Last we checked in on the Wakandan royalty, T'Challa was pondering on whether he should help literally everyone he's ever known or just chill in Birin to Djali until the Bass thing is fixed. Shuri eventually convinced him that he should, but unfortunately, T'Challa can't convince her that Bast's corruption has not yet spread to him. We then find out that T'Challa is back on Earth to actually share some of the heart-shaped herb. My, growing quite generous, aren't we, King? For those of you who are unaware, when the heart-shaped herb is consumed specifically by Bast's chosen, Bast then grants that person the powers of the Black Panther. However, if you aren't one of Bast's super special babies, it's basically like a sensu bean from Dragon Ball Z. It obviously is very powerful, and as with most things from Wakanda, they are very careful to determine if those resources ever leave their borders. As such, T'Challa has signed up to personally deliver this shipment to Mr. Fantastic himself. He's doing this, by the way, because Shuri and Reed are theorizing that the heart-shaped herb might be synthesized into a cure for the vampirism that is currently plaguing New York. T'Challa uses the darkness of New York to his advantage, and as he clings to the shadows, he hears Bast, once a voice of advice and wisdom, is taunting and chiding him for how ineffective he is, both as a king and as the Black Panther. T'Challa is then descended upon by vampires and thralls, and while he is apt at taking them down, there is seemingly no end to them, and even then he notices that he is being herded away from the Baxter Building. But unfortunately, his situation is even worse than he thinks. He is not only being herded away from the Baxter Building, but he's being herded toward Dracula. Black Panther tries to launch a counteroffensive, but Dracula is far beyond the power of any one man. He in fact compels T'Challa to not fight back as he attempts to suck his blood. When that fails due to the vibranium suit, Dracula opts to instead pluck the shiny red gem out of the center of Black Panther's suit. It is a shard of Crenovium that apparently spawned within the sacred realm of Djali. This has made the Crenovium magically inclined, and this is where things get spicy. We don't know exactly how it has been changed by being spawned in the realm of Djali, but T'Challa does confirm that it is magical in some nature. I think based on what happens next in the story, it is easiest to say that the red gem is simply a conduit for magical power, more so than anything else. It makes it easier for T'Challa to receive more of Bast's blessing because of the realm it was spawned in. And thusly, it is a better container or conduit for magical energy than regular Crenovium would be. Bast is enraged when Dracula tries to enthrall the King of Wakanda. She releases a roar against the encompassing wave of red energy that has begun to spawn from the hand of Dracula and from the red gem that he holds. In a quick clash of energies, T'Challa falls to the ground and notes that he feels a deep, penetrating hunger in his core. Dracula muses that T'Challa's blood no longer has the alluring floral scent that it once carried, and then, much to his surprise, T'Challa stands up and slashes out at him, knocking away the shard of the blood Crenovium. It is also at this point that T'Challa acknowledges the fact that he no longer hears the voice of or feels the connection to the Panther goddess Bast. T'Challa then escapes, leaving Dracula enraged, and even manages to do so with the blood Crenovium in hand. He surmises that the crystal has likely been fused with Dracula's powerful magics in the moment that he had it, And I am going to go ahead and make the conjecture that that would mean he has also been suffused with the power of Dracula's curse. Because T'Challa is never bitten. His vibranium suit protects him from Dracula's fangs, and yet he is still showing clear signs of vampirism. So clearly, the traits of Dracula's magics and that deep penetrating curse that permeates through not only him, but his entire race of vampires seems to have at least partially transferred into the blood Cronovium as Dracula was attempting to use it for whatever it is that he was going to use it for. And that's basically it. Damn, dude. This chapter is wild, right? One, I didn't think we would be getting the second chapter for any character so quickly. So to even see that this has been added, this is the only second lore chapter in the game is Black Panthers. Um, and yeah, that is pretty wild, dude. I gotta be honest. Cronovium taking on the properties of the magic that was used on it makes sense, of course, right? Because we've seen Hell do that, we've seen Loki do that, etc., etc. So it tracks that it's doing the same thing here. And on top of that, Dracula loses a major piece that he was actively looking for. This is basically Dracula's first L since he showed up in New York, and he is pissed. He goes from zero to absolutely losing his cool essentially in an instant. T'Challa also doesn't seem to entirely be a good guy in any way, shape, or form. This also sort of rolls us back into what we've been seeing in the Moon Knight story, because Moon Knight specifically mentions a guy in Greenwich Village, I believe, is where he is. When Moon Knight is assembling the Eternal Knights, which we also did a video for, if you want to check that out, see what I'm talking about. He mentions that someone is bringing together a bunch of vampires, and it's not Dracula. There's some other guy that's also doing it. And I feel like it was already like kind of confirmed when we got the gallery card. Because that gallery card, as some of my very helpful commenters pointed out, there's a gallery card that includes a picture of a black man in this ornate white armor. And obviously it can't be Blade because Blade's currently captured. And also he doesn't have the cornrows. So it had to be somebody else. And someone called out that it looked more like T'Challa than anyone. And now we have that puzzle piece, right? So T'Challa has this encounter with Dracula, and despite not getting bitten, still manages to walk away, contracting at the very least a little bit of vampirism. So this is very interesting. It raises a couple of different questions because I know that my primary question, and Bast does allude to this a little bit, but my primary question is, why does Dracula want T'Challa? Like, why though? You know what I mean? Because he couldn't have been a part of the plan originally. Excuse me. Because Dracula couldn't have known that he would come back to Earth, right? So why is it that when Black Panther pulls up, Dracula's immediately like, ooh, yes, I want that. And he sends his thralls after him and then goes after him in person. Like, he doesn't just let his thralls track him down. He's like, no, I need to be here, and sort of does it of his own accord. Bast does say something about the vampires recognizing that T'Challa has the blood of kings within him. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, because I'm sure that there have been some comic pages at some point in time where they talk about the difference in blood potencies and how it can affect Dracula and Dracula's plans, but I am unfamiliar with those. So if anybody knows, be sure to drop me a comment down below, because I have no idea why he would particularly want T'Challa. It could also be just as simple as his blood smells good. Like, he smells appetizing. There's something about the heart-shaped herb that makes the blood of the Black Panthers particularly enticing to vampires. It could definitely be that simple. And I don't think that it could be for the Cronovium because, like, he can get that somewhere else, right? Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, we don't really explicitly know of a source of Cronovium in New York in the same way that it's in Wakanda, because in Wakanda, we know that there's a concentration of Cronovium because it has fused into most of the vibranium. So maybe there's not Cronovium all over New York City, and Dracula notices that T'Challa has one and he just goes after it. I think it's very interesting. If you look on the new map, the Eternal Night City map, if you are on defense, which means you are trying to prevent Ratatasker from reaching Dracula, the spawn room of the last point, if you're in the very back where you have to walk past Dracula to get out, in the very back, there actually is a podium with blood Cronovium on it. And given that we don't really know the timeline of when this map takes place, obviously it has to be near the end of Dracula's reign, because if you get Ratatosker to the end of the point, you win, and Dracula is ostensibly slain. Um, so assumedly, the red rotating orb of Cronovium that is on an altar in that spawn point is the blood Cronovium that he takes off of T'Challa? Question mark. It's blood Cronovium that he's gotten from somewhere, because it's Cronovium that is blood red, so that's got to be blood Cronovium. So he clearly can get it from somewhere else. But who knows? Maybe he wants T'Challa for a completely different reason that I have not mentioned whatsoever. Time will tell. Season 1.5 only just dropped, so I don't even have access to all the lore. So maybe it says it somewhere. Who knows? But yeah, thank you all so much for joining us. We've got a couple more videos that are coming out probably very soon, because a lot of lore got dropped in this update. And soon we're going to talk about the other half of the Fantastic Four and where the fuck they've been and what they're doing. So if you like the video, be sure to drop a comment and leave us a subscribe. We're continuing that climb to 500. Thank you all so much for joining me. And until the next time I see you, drink some water, wash your hands, and be good people.